So if you might have heard, there's a lot going on in Bitcoin in the past 48 hours. I mean, there's so much news that you can almost not keep up with it. First, I'll start with just Bitcoin dominance. It is crushing everything else. So as you can see here, we've got Ethereum down there at the bottom, keeps going lower. Bitcoin, it's like Bitcoin and Ethereum are polar opposites. Since this inflection point right here, the dominance of Bitcoin has gone from 37.9 all the way up to 58, almost 60. And Ethereum has gone from 18% down to like 10%, a little over 10%. And then everything else is just a wash down here. I mean, new coins get created every single day, and it's just a bunch of scams. People posting stuff on Pump Fun, and there was a guy I saw that was making like 300 tokens a day. He was profitable somehow, some way, because you have to pay to create the tokens, but it's just, that's a lot of work to when you could just simply hold Bitcoin and outperform the rest of the market. As I'm learning that myself, I'm trying to learn how to day trade, and I'm constantly losing money. Whereas, in the past 7 years since I've been into Bitcoin, all I had to do was just hold Bitcoin and outperform everything. And so I think I'm gonna just switch back to just dollar cost averaging Bitcoin because I got my hand slapped. Anyway, so there's a lot going on that happened today, and then some more news that just keeps coming out. So we'll keep moving on forward here. Again, this is sort of relating the 2017 cycle to the current cycle where we're at. And it is a picture perfect match. So we should be coming up to, maybe a dip or maybe not because of all the news that's coming out, but the trajectory is nearly identical. So in 2017, we went from around $1,000 here all the way up to 20,000. Now we're a little over 100,000 right now. I don't think we're going to get ourselves to 2 million this cycle, but it'd be so. I mean, all bets are off the table because a lot is happening. There are a lot of institutional players, the federal government, the states, other central banks, other countries across the world. They're all proposing bills to get into Bitcoin, and some of them have actually passed those bills. Moving on, that is junk. Okay, so the big thing today was that Jerome Powell said that banks are perfectly able to serve crypto clients as long as the clients understand the risks involved. And the market actually went up a little bit when he said that. Like, I was watching the FOMC meeting live against the S&P 500 futures chart. Again, day trading, losing money. And the second he mentioned Bitcoin and crypto and that banks were able to custody it for their customers and help facilitate transactions and stuff like that, the price just bumped up like a few points. And then Bitcoin itself also bumped up to like, I think just shy of 105. We're currently at 104 right now and some change, but it's still good. We're sitting just below all-time highs of 109,000. So I think this is a very good position to be in. And even Forbes is saying that the US government will certainly buy Bitcoin. And then it goes into a list of reasons why. And it mainly has to do with this article says is, number one, Cynthia Lummis, just absolute rager, going on a tear. The chairwoman of the committee that the executive order that Trump signed, she will be leading that. And there are a lot of crypto donors that have given millions of dollars to the Trump campaign that helped him get elected. So he is rubbing their shoulders or rubbing their backs for rubbing his, or scratch your back, scratch mine, whatever. There are a lot of, crypto companies out there, because there's no Bitcoin company. So it's just the people involved, and, a lot of times people are into many different things aside from just Bitcoin. So, you got to take it for what you have. But a lot of people donated a lot of money to his campaign. And so he has surrounded his cabinet and the rest of his administration with very crypto and Bitcoin friendly people. The new SEC chair, the old one, Gary Gensler, quit on Trump's first day or something like that. And the new one is crypto friendly. The Senate Banking Committee, I think, also has a new head that is Bitcoin friendly. And then there are a lot of committees, and I don't know all of them. And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of them have Bitcoin friendly people that are now heading those committees and authority having jurisdictions. Here we go into what I mentioned that Cynthia Lummis says, well, this is news, that the Czech central bank wants to buy billions of euros in Bitcoin. So they have proposed this, a central bank has proposed this to buy Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheet. This is just everyone looking at the performance, looking at MicroStrategy, being able to take advantage of the price increase into Bitcoin and where it's going. I think a lot of people are seeing the writing on the wall, and the fact that it has not dropped significantly below 100,000, it's actually been quite stable for the past few weeks, shows a lot of people that this ain't going anywhere. You know, Bitcoin has been around for 16 plus years, and it has been battle tested. It has had, you know, upgrades from Taproot and, you know, there's other ones like the Runes one. I don't know all of them, but there's a lot that's going on right now. And I think people are starting to get wise to that this isn't something that's just gonna, you know, it's not a Beanie Baby thing. It's not a Ponzi scheme. It's here to stay. It's backed by energy. It causes the demand of more energy to be produced. So the fact that Trump wants to drill for more oil is actually a good thing for Bitcoin because we need energy, cheap energy. Renewables great. I wish that we would go stronger into nuclear power, but then there's also etheric power where you get energy from the atmosphere. It's true, ionosphere, that's why it's called that, because if you put a wire up into the atmosphere, you will get voltage down at the bottom of that wire. There's free electricity all around us. We don't actually have to pay for electricity. You can just look that up and Google it yourself because it's real. Moving on, here are all the states that have introduced a Bitcoin bill of some sort. So, you know, we have like 12, 13 states here, and we're missing Indiana. I think that's Indiana. I think this is Illinois, that's Indiana. Yeah, I think that's right. Because Indiana actually introduced a Bitcoin bill as well, like an hour or so ago. So things are moving so fast that people can't even keep these maps updated. I know there's only 50 states and that it's pretty easy to like just update a color on a map with a Bitcoin B in it, but things are moving fast. And I've tried to find a very up-to-date and accurate map, and this is the closest that I got. So I think there are a couple that have actually, I think Arizona actually passed the first actual bill and is now, you know, part of the legislature or something like that. But, you know, all of these are going to be varying degrees of what that reserve is, because I think like the state of Texas, they'll allow you to pay your taxes in Bitcoin and they'll hold on to that. And I know you can pay your taxes in Bitcoin in Colorado, but I don't think that they are planning to hold it for any period of time. I think they just sell it, but you are allowed to pay your taxes in Bitcoin. Like, what do you do? I'm not going to do that. You can have my dirty fiat. Thank you. My worthless dirty fiat. So these are just great reasons to, if you haven't, take a hard look at Bitcoin, because things are moving very fast now. I mean, you go, I think the saying by Mark Twain was, you go poor slow, gradually, then suddenly. Now, the same thing is true for Bitcoin, but in the opposite, where you get rich slowly and then suddenly. So, you know, I've done pretty well over the past 7 years. And if you just started dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, then you will do well as well. It's just, it's really kind of remarkable. You know, if I hadn't jumped into Bitcoin when I did, I was in a desperate place, and I put half of all of my savings, which wasn't very much at the time, it was just a couple of $1,000s. And then I put half of that onto BitConnect. If for those of you that don't know what BitConnect is, it was a lending platform back in 2018, 2017, where you would deposit Bitcoin and you would get paid roughly 1% of interest per day. And so I thought that was great, you know, and you had to lock it up for like 30, 60, 90 days. And the longer you locked it up, the higher interest rate that you got. So I locked it up for the longest period of time, 90 days for this to start. And then the state of Texas issued a cease and desist. And since they were operating from overseas somewhere, I think the Bahamas or something like that, they just upped and quit, stole everyone's Bitcoin. unlike Mt. Gox, I'll never get that back. It will never come back to me. I don't even think that they would be able to figure out who owned what Bitcoin, because I don't think there was any KYC or AML or any of that. It was unregulated. And, I followed people on YouTube that were, promoting this scam. And for those of you that are, on YouTube that are looking at platforms like Celsius, BlockFi, FTX, we all know what happened to those. I don't even know if Celsius and BlockFi are still around. They might be, but I was very lucky. I didn't learn my lesson from BitConnect, and I put it on both of those platforms. First BlockFi, and then I heard that Celsius was better regulated, so I put it on. Then I moved it to Celsius, and then I just decided that the extra 5 or whatever APY that I was getting wasn't worth the risk of them potentially taking it, so I withdrew it. And thankfully I did that, because several months later they both went kaput, and people are still waiting. They may have received their Bitcoin or the value in US dollars of their Bitcoin back, but they'll never get the appreciation or the whole amount of Bitcoin that they had at the time. So just avoid platforms. All you have to do is dollar cost average and take self-custody of your Bitcoin, and that will do you really well. So just to avoid all of the scams. There are a lot of people that are going to tell you, buy this, buy that, buy this token, put your Bitcoin over here, get a yield. Don't do that. Just don't. I know it's very tempting. It tempted me several times, and I was very lucky not to lose any more Bitcoin. I lost about like half of Bitcoin. It's like $50,000 today. So just think about that. Do you want to lose, whatever amount, 0.1, 0.01, half a Bitcoin, one whole Bitcoin, 10 Bitcoin, whatever amount that you have? I would not risk that at all on any sort of platform. Just take self-custody of it. Get it off the exchange, learn self-custody, get a hardware wallet. My favorite is Seed Signer, not affiliated. They don't pay me any, I wish they did. It's an open source project, so I doubt that they will ever promote or do any sort of marketing or sales or anything like that. But it's just very important that you do something like that, is to take self-custody of your Bitcoin, hold it, keep it yours, hands, diamond hands, keep it tight, never let it go, put it in cold storage. And one day when it is appreciated enough for you, then I would spend it. Hopefully regulation eases a little bit and we don't have any sort of capital gains or income tax on Bitcoin. That would be ideal, because you don't pay, we should be receiving a tax, a benefit from the devaluation of the US dollar, but that obviously doesn't happen. If you just store your wealth into an asset, you then have to pay taxes on it after already paying an income tax from the money that you receive from your employer or your business or wherever you work to buy that asset in the first place. So it's already double taxation. We are double, triple, quadruple taxed to no end, and it gets under my skin. But moving on. So lastly, Tesla still has all of their Bitcoin, and they took advantage of the new FASB accounting rules. So they were able to book a $600 million gain on its Bitcoin holdings in Q4. So it's just a number that's changed on paper, but people look at that and they go, well, these accounting rules are actually very favorable now. I don't have to treat this as a toxic asset where they only allow you to list the lowest possible entry point that you have owned it, or the lowest possible point at which it trades, to be posted on your balance sheet. Now, with the new accounting rules, they can actually post the current market rate of the asset. So it's much more fair, much more lenient for Bitcoin and crypto. I think it's only actually Bitcoin. I'm not sure if it's all other cryptos or not, but who cares about those? Just buy Bitcoin. So good for them. They're, getting a benefit from what Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy have been pushing for a very long time, and it's to get these accounting rules changed. The central banks, like the Czech Republic and the Fed, have both said one is put out a bill to buy Bitcoin, and the other one that has said it's okay for banks to buy and hold Bitcoin for their customers. So all of this news is extremely bullish, and I'm sure I'm missing stuff, but it just continues. Every single day seems to get more and more interesting. And I know the price is still just kind of trading sideways up and down a little bit, but you got to look at, zoom out, as they say. Look at the long run of where Bitcoin has gone from, in the past 10 years, just in the past 10 years. So it was, a couple $100 or two, three, four, $500, 10 years ago. And now we're at over $100,000. So imagine where we'll be in another 10 years. Yes, you have to have a low tide preference and to realize that, this is for those of you that are young, or even if you're old and you don't have any money, this is our opportunity. Like, the powers that be don't want you to be well off. They want you to be subservient to an employer and to just make people money. So the more that you opt out into a different system that cannot be controlled, people can control the price, but that doesn't really control the network, because no one can stop you from sending transactions. No one can stop you from sending money to somebody in Africa on a Sunday afternoon when the banks are all closed in about an hour. It's just a much more fair system. So I would just advise, I'm not a financial advisor, but in my opinion, I think everyone should be buying Bitcoin and taking self-custody of it. And I think in the long run, that will do well for everybody. So I appreciate you all watching.